died in Gaza. The IDF confirming that just a short while ago. That is the third Israeli we now know of, according to the Israeli military, to have died in Gaza. The first was 19-year-old Corporal Noah Marciano, found not far from the Shifa hospital, some 50 meters, according to the Israeli military. The second is 65-year-old Yudit Weiss, a grandmother, also found in the vicinity of the Shifa hospital, according to the Israeli military. So the effort continues. It has been a key question. What is the condition of the hostages held by Hamas? And as we've just learned, more definitively held by other groups. But that's a question that nobody has been able to answer conclusively. Not the Israelis, not the U.S., and critically, not the Qataris. So this is something we'll be watching very closely. Israel says they've tried to operate in such a way as to not endanger the hostages held in Gaza, but that is, of course, an incredibly difficult objective to carry out, because Israel has never had a very good indication of where they are. So this is unfortunately a horrible aspect of all this that we'll keep an eye on.
Yeah, and Oren, with how we're learning about this push, about what the CIA director is doing in Doha, they want this deal to be longer. They want it to include men. They want it to include these IDF men and women soldiers as well. But I think there's a real sense of almost desperation among the hostage families, who are not only desperate to get their loved ones homes, but are looking at this potential window here. They know that this truce has been extended by 2 days, but they also know that Israeli officials are making pretty clear, if this truce goes south, or if it ends abruptly, or if it ends even after the 2 days, it's very clear that Israel is going to immediately begin its military campaign in Gaza, which could be even more expanded than what we have been watching for the last several weeks.
There has been a tremendous push on the part of the families, you're absolutely right, of the hostages, that is, to make sure that Israel tries to get out and does everything it can to get out all of the hostages that it can before fighting resumes. We see that now, especially a big push from the family of 10-month-old Kfir Bibas to try to make sure he's on the next list to come out, or trying to put domestic pressure on the Israeli government to make sure that more hostages are released. That's something we're obviously going to track very closely here. There is also, of course, international pressure coming from the U.S., the Qataris trying to pressure Hamas there, as well as other international partners to try to make sure this truce lasts longer, to get in more humanitarian aid. That would allow for a longer pause in fighting, more Israeli hostages to be released, more Palestinian women and children to be released from Israeli prisons. A few points to make here. First, you're absolutely right that Israel has indicated that the second this pause in the fighting is over, the war is back on. In fact, we've just seen Israel and Hamas accusing each other of violating the terms of the agreement. Israel says there were 3 explosives planted near the troops and they were fired upon and returned fire. Hamas blamed Israel, in fact, for leading to that exchange of fire. What's critical now is, at least from what we see, it has not disrupted or caused the agreement to fall apart, but it does show you how fragile the overall agreement is. And that's something we'll have to keep an eye on, especially as we go into the last 36, 24 hours of this extended truce. Now, a key question here also is, what is the price Hamas tries to exact once we have seen the women and children come out? Israel has long believed that it will demand more, certainly for the men, and absolutely more for the men and women that are soldiers in the Israeli military that were kidnapped. Is there a bridge that can be built there by the Qataris to try to continue and get those out? That's a critical question, and one that, at least from what we've seen, has not yet been answered. I'm not even sure anybody has tried to approach that yet, as they focus right now on the women and on the children.
Yeah, we'll see how long Hamas wants to keep that pause in fighting underway. Oren Liebermann, thank you for that. And starting today, when it comes to Gaza, what we're seeing there, as it's been very quiet with no fighting, the first of 3 U.S. military flights that is carrying critical humanitarian aid for Gaza is going to land in Egypt, where it will stop there before being taken into Gaza. We're told that on these flights, medical supplies, food, winter weather gear, because senior administration officials say, obviously, the winter is coming. It is going to be incredibly rainy there in Gaza. And once that aid has arrived in Gaza, we are told the United Nations will be in charge of distributing it. This delivery, we are told, is separate from this ongoing truce that has just been extended for 2 days. The U.S. says it will continue even if that truce is disrupted. As Oren was noting there, it's incredibly fragile. The question, of course, is if they can still successfully get it in as easily when there is fighting that is resumed. CNN's Arlette Saenz is tracking all of this from the White House. Arlette, what are we learning about, just how confident U.S. officials are that, one, this aid is even coming close to being enough to what people need on the ground, and 2, how they could ensure that it would keep going into Gaza if Israel does begin its military campaign again?
Well, Caitlin, there is a recognition within the administration that more needs to be done on the humanitarian aid front to try to ease some of the suffering facing these civilians in Gaza. And they are trying, in part, to ease some of that by sending in this new round of humanitarian aid in. As you mentioned, the first of 3 military planes carrying this added aid will be heading into Egypt today. At that point, it will be distributed by the UN and really used to replenish some of the supplies and stock that have started to winnow down as this fight continues. Now, this latest shipment is expected to include medical supplies, food, winter gear. As you noted, this is a cold and rainy season in Gaza, so they want to ensure that they're able to get that type of material to the civilians there. But it does come as there has been an increase in aid going into Gaza since this truce between Hamas and Israel had started. There are roughly 800 trucks of humanitarian aid that have gone into Gaza. President Biden himself has pointed to one of the successful portions of this truce being the fact that they're not only able to get hostages out, but also get that humanitarian aid. So the administration trying to take one more step at this time to help those civilians in Gaza with this aid.
And in addition to that, I mean, the U.S. is also clearly planning for what happens if this truce does end, if it does, when it's going to come to an end at some point, but what that looks like. And we're hearing from officials about how they are urging Israel to be more cautious, more surgical when it comes to targeting Hamas in Gaza. What does the U.S., what are they warning Israel about, basically?
Well, senior administration officials say that they've been urging Israel to be more precise and surgical in their operations as they're going after Hamas to try to avoid civilian casualties. One thing that officials have also pressed upon Israel is warning them against conducting these operations in the southern part of Gaza, where many people have been fleeing to as this conflict has unfolded. Now, this comes as there is an anticipation that after this truce ends, that fighting will resume. And one thing officials said is that they've been having constructive conversations with Israel about what has gone right and what has gone wrong in their initial campaign. Of course, President Biden and other top officials across the administration have talked about how there is a need to ensure that civilians are protected. They need to do less to try to do more to minimize civilian casualties. And it comes as the president back here at home has faced his own pressures politically from people who are frustrated with the Israeli military campaign and the thousands of Palestinians it has killed in Gaza. So the White House, as they are consulting with Israeli officials about the next steps in this fight, they are trying to caution them and encourage them to just be more precise in their operations against Hamas as they are trying to protect more civilian life.
Yeah, we'll see if those messages come through. Israel seems quite intent on resuming that campaign and especially moving it to the south. Arlette Saenz, thank you for that great report. Sarah, Kate, obviously still a lot of questions here about what happens after day 5 and day 6 of this temporary truce expires.
Yeah, a lot of families are waiting to hear what will happen. Thank you so much, Caitlin, and thank you also to Arlette. CIA Director Bill Burns, as you heard, is back in Qatar pushing for a broader hostage deal. This one to include men and soldiers, according to multiple sources to CNN. Burns continues to play a key role in the negotiations. Today, he will meet with his Qatari, Israeli, and Egyptian counterparts. I am joined now by former CIA operative Bob Baer. Thank you so much for being with us. It's been a minute since I've gotten to talk to you. I'm happy to see your face. First off, can you give us some sense, how significant is it that the director of the CIA is once again back in Qatar talking through negotiations with the Qataris, the Egyptians, the Israelis, and through them, Hamas? Can you give us a sense of just the importance of him being there?
Well, the importance is he's a seasoned diplomat. He's a very good diplomat. He's an able CIA director, but he knows that part of the world, the Arab part of the world. He's also very discreet, and CIA communications are very secure. So any sensitive discussions, the president knows will be held very tightly. So that's why Burns is there. But what Burns really would love to do, and I'm speculating here, is a permanent ceasefire. Because right now the Israelis are intent on resuming the war, going south, and there is no such thing as precision strikes in Gaza. It's just not possible. It's too built up. Israeli intelligence isn't good enough. So we're really at a threshold here. Will this war expand? Will it expand through the Middle East? And so sending Burns to Qatar is the best the president can do.
Can you give me a sense? We know that Hamas, is in the midst of these negotiations. You've got all these people hanging in the balance. Can you give us a sense of just how tricky all of this is when you have this many players and you have a group that is the United States considers a terrorist organization, but it is also the government at this point in time of Gaza?
Hamas is Gaza. There are separate groups, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, for instance. Right. They're criminal groups which apparently hold hostages, which makes it very difficult. But to get rid of Hamas, you have to get rid of the entire infrastructure of government there. And this is what really the problem is. Since 2007, Hamas has taken over Gaza completely, the health, education, everything, the police. So getting rid of it, I don't even know how you would do that, how you would define getting rid of it. But I can tell you right now is that the Israelis politically and for their survival in a way need to get rid of Sinwar, the political head, and Mohammed Adef, the military leader. And who knows where they are? They're probably underground. They're moving all the time, every 24 hours. So the Israelis, we're talking about, again, going back, they have to resume this war.
Bob Baer, thank you so much. I mean, what you said is just really, really important, that Hamas is the government there and they are in every segment of society. Getting rid of Hamas, it may not be a thing that is truly possible. I appreciate your time. Kate?
Coming up for us, with more hostages being released, we are now starting to get a clearer window into what they endured while in captivity. The fear, the silence, the handcuffs, the deplorable conditions, and the darkness. Their stories next.
King Charles premieres tomorrow at 10 on CNN.
Consumer Cellular, this is Sam. How may I help you? This is a butt dial. Well, somebody's butt.
Just thought I'd let you know that with Consumer Cellular,
You can get the same exact coverage as the leading carriers, but
for up to half the price.
It starts with the sun, sparking something so simple that makes it all move. High noon, high design. Movado, Swiss made since 1881.
We've got questions about Medicare plans.
Well, we've got a lot of answers. How can I help?
Well, for starters, do you have a Medicare plan I can actually afford?
How about a plan with a $0 monthly premium?
Well, that's a great start. What other benefits can we get?
Things like dental, vision, and hearing. But let me help you pick the plan that's right for you.
Ooh,
Don't wait. Call 1-888-65-Aetna to get answers to your questions and pick a plan that's right for you. And let's make healthier happen together.
Attention! Did you or a loved one live at or near the Marine Base Camp Lejeune in North Carolina between 1950 and 1985? If so, listen closely for this important legal announcement. For decades, Marines and their family members at Camp Lejeune drank water that was contaminated with hazardous toxins. The toxins found in the water at Camp Lejeune may cause cancer and other diseases, especially later in life. Types of cancer and diseases associated with water at Camp Lejeune are numerous. If you or a loved one lived at Camp Lejeune between 1950 and 1985, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation without going to court. Even if you were turned down in the past, new legislation may allow you to file a claim today. If you spent time at Camp Lejeune, call the Negligence Network to find out if you're eligible for financial compensation. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call 1-800-600-4465. That's 1-800-600-4465.
What makes a Medicare supplement insurance plan, like an AARP Medicare supplement insurance plan from United Healthcare, a good choice for people on Medicare? It's smart for you to have now.
I'm 65.
And later on, for the future you.
I'm 70-ish.
It's really smart.
Hey, looking good. You made a great choice for us.
With this type of plan, see any doctor or visit any hospital that accepts Medicare patients. There are no networks. Your healthcare future will have more freedom.
I kept our doctor. And when I needed a specialist, no referrals needed, right? Bingo.
In fact, see any doctor anywhere in the U.S. Really smart to have when you travel.
When I visit this little cutie in Arizona, my plan goes with me. Grandkids! I can't wait.
Don't worry about surprise medical bills either. You'll know up front about how much your care will cost. And knowing your expenses makes planning your financial future easier.
I'm glad my husband and I can use our savings to do the things we want to do. I'm glad I don't have to shop for a new plan every year.
That's right. Once you enroll, your coverage is guaranteed for as long as you keep this plan. Have questions? Call United Healthcare now to talk with a licensed insurance agent or producer. They know a lot about what makes these plans smart now and really smart later. Or just ask for this free guide, benefits and rates in one place, so it's easy to compare options. Year to year, 94% of members renew their plan. And Medicare supplement plans with the AARP name are the only Medicare supplement plans endorsed by AARP, meeting their high standards of service and quality. So give United Healthcare a call today and set yourself and your future self up with an AARP Medicare supplement plan from United Healthcare.
Winnie, look at you. Thanks again for looking out for me. We're in this together.
An AARP Medicare supplement plan from United Healthcare. Smart now, really smart later.
The NBA in-season tournament continues on TNT. Milwaukee's best gets a dose of Heat culture. And the Warriors, straight through the heart, rekindle their rivalry with the Kings. The NBA in-season tournament. Coverage begins tonight at 7 on TNT.
This is an incredible rescue after more than 2 weeks underground. All 41 workers trapped inside a collapsed tunnel in India have been pulled to safety, according to Indian officials. CNN's Vedika Sood is joining us now. This is quite a revelation, Vedika. We are looking at live pictures of the ambulances that are just stacked up right outside of the opening of that tunnel. What can you tell us?
Sarah, nothing short of a miracle is how I would put it. 17 days. After 17 days, you're seeing 41 of them, hopefully in good physical condition, if not the best, being pulled out, and they've been whisked away in ambulances for medical attention and focus as we speak. Now, it's taken a lot of effort on part of the government as well as the rescue teams on the ground. There's been disappointment day after day. There were these huge, heavy drilling machines that were brought in, and they were cutting through the rubble, through the metal rods inside the tunnel that was impacted by the debris, cutting off these 41 men for 17 days from the rest of civilization, if you may. And today, they're out. They've used a pipe which is about 3 feet in diameter and they've inserted it through the debris for the last few days, and they've pushed it through, and that's how they reached out to those 41 men, bringing them out one by one on a stretcher that was mounted on wheels, and using the pulley system, the ropes really, to pull them out gently. The entire passageway inside the tunnel was illuminated with lights to make sure that these men, who've been in darkness almost for 17 days, do not panic while they're being pulled out. For 17 days, constantly the authorities have been reaching out to them through megaphones, through the pipes, supplying them with oxygen, food, water, medicines, mobile chargers, promising them that they will be pulled out. There's been dejection, there's been dismay, there's been disappointment in the run-up to the 17th day, but today there's only happiness, elation, relief that you're seeing on the faces of the rescue teams, the family members, and these migrant laborers themselves. 41 of them out in the last hour and a half. What a story, what a miracle, and what an achievement in one of the roughest and most difficult terrains in the Himalayas. Sarah.
Yeah, Uttarakhand, way up in the north of India, in the Himalaya Mountains. Thank you so much for that bit of good news. And I'm sure we'll start to hear from some of those people who have been rescued. I see they're talking to one of the rescue operators right there. We appreciate your time, Vedika, and we will be back with you to try to get an update. Kate?
A bold move, a big endorsement, and one potentially coming with big dollars. The Koch network, the powerful associated with the powerful Republican donors, the Koch brothers, have just endorsed Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley. Americans for Prosperity Action, the political arm of Koch's network, are out with a new ad in support of the former UN ambassador. Let's get over to CNN's Jessica Dean. She's got more details on this. This is a big deal for not just Nikki Haley, but the entire Republican field.
That is exactly right, Cake. So often when we hear endorsements, they don't really do all of that much or move the needle. This could be potentially very different. The reason why is just the incredible amount of money that Americans for Prosperity has at its disposal and has shown that it will use. This is the very first time they've ever gotten involved in a presidential primary, in the GOP presidential primary, and they said they had to. They knew and had said that they would likely bypass former President Trump because in their explanation of this endorsement of Nikki Haley today, one of their executives saying that they believe that the GOP continues to nominate what they called bad candidates and that Americans are rejecting them. That's why they are throwing their support behind the former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, who they believe could win in a general election. So what does their support mean? This is why this is such a big deal. It means probably millions and millions and millions of dollars in ads, both in the early states and also the Super Tuesday states. It means access to their data to get to voters. It means their vast network of conservative activists all acting on her behalf. So this is a huge boost to Nikki Haley as she really looks to fend off Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor, as the Trump alternative in this race. And just a scene set for everybody. Remember, the former president continues to really lead this field in all of the polling, both nationally and in the early states. And so what we have seen is who will be that Trump alternative. That's what so many of these other people in the field have tried to become. Ron DeSantis has really pitched himself as the person who can beat Donald Trump and win in a general election. Nikki Haley has done the same thing. And so in all of this polling and also on the ground, we're hearing from voters who are trying to sort through who is the best alternative and who can win. That's the thing that they really keep looking to. And so this endorsement could potentially reshape a lot of dynamics within this race as we get ever closer to January 15th. Of course, Kate, that's the Iowa caucuses. It kicks off the primary season voting.
And just thinking about this, Jessica, and what this political network brings to the Republican field, to conservative causes, and has for years, this almost seems like the biggest statement yet of Republicans established, like in a Republican donor network trying to move away and move past Donald Trump, as you're talking about. It's a real statement of what they're trying to do, of course, with the caveat on, you never know if it's going to work. But this seems a significant moment for that reason alone.
It certainly does, and I think you make a really good point there. I think for so many people in the, let's call it, GOP establishment, not even never Trumpers, but people who perhaps supported Donald Trump in the last even 2 election cycles, who do not want to see him move forward as the nominee, who really want a new chapter. It's been a question of who will they coalesce around. And in this case, this is a huge push for Nikki Haley to be that person. And that is what's so significant, is that in that battle that really at this moment is between DeSantis and Haley, Haley really gets a big boost from this.
Really interesting. Great. Thanks for jumping on with that reporting. Great to see you. We'll be right back.
What's going on, America? We're tired of the BS.
This is our unfiltered take on the biggest stories of the day.
Gayle King, Charles Barkley, King Charles premieres tomorrow at 10 on CNN.
With Gold Bond, you can age on your own terms. Retinol Overnight means the smoothing benefits of retinol are now for your whole body. Plus, fast-working crepe corrector diminishes wrinkled skin in just 2 days. Gold Bond, champion your skin.
Hi, my name is Damian Clark. And if you have both Medicare and Medicaid, I have some really encouraging news that you'll definitely want to hear. Depending on the plans available in your area, you may be eligible to get extra benefits with the Humana Medicare Advantage Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan. All these plans include a Healthy Options allowance, a monthly allowance to help pay for eligible groceries, utilities, rent, and over-the-counter items, like vitamins, pain relievers, first aid supplies, and more. The Healthy Options allowance is loaded onto a prepaid card each month, and whatever you don't spend carries over from each month. Other benefits on these plans include free rides to and from your medical appointments. You pay nothing for covered prescriptions all year long. All plans have dental coverage, which includes 2 free cleanings a year, fillings, and a yearly exam. They also have vision coverage, including vision exams and a yearly allowance towards eyewear, such as lenses or contacts, and hearing coverage, which includes routine hearing tests and coverage for hearing aids. You'll also have a $0 copay for the shingles and other routine vaccines at in-network retail pharmacies. Plus, your doctor, hospital, and pharmacy may already be part of our large Humana networks. So call the number on your screen now to speak with a licensed Humana sales agent. Wouldn't you love benefits like a monthly allowance? To help pay for eligible groceries, utilities, rent, and over-the-counter items. So if you have Medicare and Medicaid, call the number on your screen now and speak with a licensed Humana sales agent. If you're eligible, they can even help enroll you over the phone in a Humana Medicare Advantage dual eligible special needs plan. So call now. Humana, a more human way to healthcare.
Whenever you're hungry, there's a deal on the Subway app. Buy 1 footlong, get one 50% off in the Subway app today.
Now that's a deal worth celebrating.
Man, what are you doing? Get it before it's gone on the Subway app.
The arrival of holiday season brings with it a kind of wonder for the little ones and for anyone who's young at heart. From gourmet goodies to fully prepared meals, Harry and David makes it easy to turn your gatherings into memories that last a lifetime.
And Doug. And Doug says you can customize and save hundreds on car insurance with Liberty Mutual. He hits his mark center stage and is crushed by a baby grand piano. Are you replacing me? With this guy?
Customize and save with Liberty Bibbity.
He doesn't even have a mustache.
Oh, look, a Bee-Boo.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
The smooth creaminess your cereal craves.
Always. 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 I can get the exact same brand and the exact same contacts that I used to get from my eye doctor. 1-800-CONTACTS.
Hey, I'm Hannah Malouf. Check out my haul from eBay Motors to get this Charger to rip. With eBay Motors, you can get the perfect haul too. With parts guaranteed to fit every time.
Possibly the story of the century.
Chowchilla, Sunday at 9 on CNN.
And we are standing by this morning for the release of 10 more hostages from the hands of Hamas. And we are starting to learn from those already freed what they've all been forced to endure for some 7 weeks now in captivity in Gaza, including from Mirav Raviv, talking to CNN's Matthew Chance. Her relatives were released by Hamas on Friday and are telling her they had little food, little access to bathrooms, and more. And then this from the head of the medical team helping the Hostages and Missing Families Forum, telling CNN this morning what he has seen in evaluating 84-year-old Elma Avraham after she was released.
You can see on her body that she was dragged from a place to place, and that she was handcuffed, that, like she has chemical wounds from not treating her basic needs, if you understand what I mean. So, that's loss of basic dignity, that's immense suffering.
She remains in the hospital in what doctors are saying a life-threatening condition. Joining me now is Yaakov Katz. He's a senior columnist and editor, former editor-in-chief for the Jerusalem Post. Yaakov, thank you so much for coming on. What more are you hearing of what hostages had to endure and had to and survived while in captivity, as their families are now starting to talk more about it?
Some of the stories, Kate, are heartbreaking, right? There was one, Emily Hand, who was a 9-year-old girl, the one with the curls, beautiful-looking child, who came back and thought she had been in captivity for a year, cries herself to sleep. It can't be comforted. There are stories of a 12-year-old boy who was forced at gunpoint by Hamas to watch some of those horrific videos from the October 7th massacre, and when he complained about it, was beaten. There are stories of the elderly women who were starved right? They lost something like 5 to 15 kilo of their weight. That could be about 25 pounds. There wasn't enough food. Some of the women apparently were kept in cages, kept in the dark without access to bathrooms. This was nothing like what the Geneva Convention calls for in the treatment of captives. But let's remember, these weren't captives. Hamas took these people to cause Israel pain and to make our hearts break.
That's absolutely right. And so now, where we are, as we're hearing more about what hostages have had to endure, Israel and Hamas have now agreed to 2 additional days of a truce. And we know as of this morning that CIA Director Bill Burns and the director of Israel's Mossad are holding new meetings today in Doha about possibly trying to expand the deal further. What do you think could come after day 6 of this truce?
That's the big question right now, because on the one hand, Israel wants to do everything it can to get back as many hostages as possible, even after the release of what we've seen over the last 4 days and the 10 that are hopefully going to be coming home tonight. You still will have about 170 who are going to be held in captivity in the Gaza Strip by Hamas. So therefore, Israel has that interest to get back those people. You know, even the women and children, Kate, who have been brought back, there's many fathers and husbands who were left behind because Hamas is not willing to release any of those men. So while we're all excited and happy to see these people come back, those families are still broken and are still being ripped apart. But I think that Israel has 2 interests here. One is to continue to weaken Hamas, to eliminate its capabilities, to remove it from power in Gaza. I listened to Bob Baer before, the former CIA operative, who spoke about how, yes, Hamas leadership is still intact in southern Gaza. They still have brigades down there, thousands of fighters, significant capabilities that continue to pose a threat to Israel. On the other hand, the other interest is to get back as many hostages. But at what point will Israel say, we've done enough with this break and this pause, we have to get back to the main objective, which is denying Hamas the ability to ever again carry out such an attack against Israel?
Because the question is then, like, do military officials in Israel think that they can take out Hamas and its operational capabilities without starting up its ground operation again?
I don't think so. I think everyone in Israel, when I talk to military planners, they all understand that the only way this can be done is with boots on the ground also in southern Gaza. They can try to keep things a little more focused and pinpointed in the operations, different than what we maybe have seen in the northern part of Gaza, where there's a lot of devastation and destruction. But it's not going to be simple. Hamas embeds itself within civilian infrastructure. We see the way they use hospitals, mosques, schools, apartment buildings. If you want to be able to get to those people, to get to the leaders, to take them out, to smoke out the fighters and degrade their capabilities, you have to go in on the ground. And when you go in on the ground, you know, Kate, that you're going to be, there's friction, there are battles, there's going to be destruction, there's going to be collateral damage. Sadly, civilians are going to tragically be killed in Gaza. But this is going to be part of what Israel will have to do because there's no alternative at the moment. Hamas cannot be left intact and standing to be able to continue to pose a threat to Israel and the rest of the world.
Yeah, especially when the talk of needing to go in to take them out also means going in and going underground, as we know, and are learning more and more about the tunnel network underneath all of Gaza, essentially, as these hostages are coming out. Yaakov, thank you for coming on. Sarah?
All right, coming up, Sports Illustrated under fire after a report found several articles on its website were generated by AI under fake author names. More details on that ahead.
The NBA in-season tournament continues on TNT. Milwaukee's best gets a dose of Heat culture. And the Warriors straight through the heart rekindle their rivalry with the Kings. The NBA in-season tournament. Coverage begins tonight at 7 on TNT.
So hear the drums drumming, all your friends humming. Yeah, it's a good time coming. Everything you wanted, it's right here, y'all. Everything you needed, it's right here, y'all. We got the tunes bumping, got the kids jumping. Yeah, it's a good time coming.
Hi, William Devane here. The Medicare annual enrollment period is now. Do you know if your Medicare plan benefits are changing next year? Will your costs go up? Are your doctors still covered? Get your answers in 3 steps. 1, call the toll-free number below to speak to a licensed insurance agent. 2, They'll review your coverage to ensure you're in the right plan for you next year. 3, learn if a Medicare Advantage plan that may offer additional benefits is available in your area. The Medicare annual enrollment period has a deadline, so call by December 7th.
I call every year to see what plans are available in my area.
I call every year to make sure my doctors are still covered under my plan.
They work with multiple insurance companies across the nation, so you'll have choices from a variety of plans. The Medicare annual enrollment period has a deadline. Millions have called. You should too.
Call to speak to a licensed insurance agent.
Call 1-800-406-2599. Call now.
We've got questions about Medicare plans.
Well, we've got a